Hello everyone. I would like to continue speaking a little bit about the development of tone, continuing from my previous video, which I will link in the description below. There are a few things that make up our tone, things like vibrato, articulation, and the way we connect notes to each other. In the previous video, I spoke mostly about embouchure, airstream, so that is mostly the control of one note, how to start the note and playing everything as softly as possible. Now we will go into how to add onto that. I would like to start by speaking about how to connect notes. This is mostly about kind of imitating what vocalists would do, so thinking as though I'm singing the notes. What I do usually is I take a specific interval. I want to imagine what it would feel like and sound like if I were going to sing it. For example, let's take a sixth. So I'm playing just an F to D, low F to D. Now, if I think about how I'm going to sing that, I want to, as much as possible, replicate it. One thing that I'm not going to do is tongue. I want no articulation on these intervals. The reason is that the tongue is kind of a crutch. That means that it is much easier to play things when you're tonguing them. So what we want to do is to avoid that. It might be a little bit difficult at the start, but then we're going to gain a lot more control over our sound. Let's see, starting from F and just moving up in semitones. I want to connect the notes as much as possible, and I'm thinking of the consistency. Notice that I'm still not playing very loud. I'm still controlling how the note starts. As clean as possible, as smooth as possible, avoiding any kind of overtone. It's important that when we're playing the first note, we're also imagining what the next note is going to be, because it helps with the intonation, with the consistency. So when I'm playing that first note, I'm thinking already of what that second note is going to sound like. My ears got used to the interval now, so I can kind of tell what the note is going to be. So we can do that with different intervals. Just find whatever is most comfortable for you. Start with smaller intervals that you can hear and that you can manage to play with a certain consistency in your tone and without the sound breaking in between the notes. And then move on to a little bit larger intervals to increase the difficulty. I also think about it rather than just vocalists, what vocalists do. I also think about what string instruments do. So imagining how a cello connects two notes, that little bit of portamento, kind of moving into one note, which is not really possible on the saxophone. But if we imagine it and we work on connecting the tones in a real consistent way, we can get a little bit closer to something that string instruments do. One thing which is important to understand about articulation is that just because we're practicing without tonguing doesn't mean that we're not going to use articulation in our playing and our soloing. Articulation and vibrato are two aspects of our tone that can really inject our sound with a specific character, and it's something that we can really mold to create a personal sound. One more thing that we can discuss is the effect of vibrato on our tone. Here we're talking about injecting a specific kind of character. There are many ways of approaching vibrato. One exercise I was shown by the great J.D. Allen is taking just one note, like a middle C, and shifting down with your embouchure by a half step, but making this, rather than a bend, making it as clean as possible. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just fingering the middle C, and I'm going to shift down with my embouchure to a B natural. What I'm doing here is I'm using a little bit more air now to support the note when I'm bending it. It's important that, of course, my note doesn't kind of break. You can still hear it clearly. So it's really a step down rather than a bend. It's not bill, it's ba. Once we gain control over that at a slow rhythm, we can start increasing the rhythm a little bit. Then we can start giving a specific subdivision, for example. Just take a metronome. We can think triplets. So then once I start working on different subdivisions, my application of the exercise can turn into different characteristics of vibrato, which I can use in different situations depending on what effect I want. Again, everything I'm thinking about here in terms of tone is very much connected to what vocalists do. Now, if I take what I was doing before with these intervals and I attach the vibrato, I'm going to think about different types of vibrato. Again, imagining kind of what a string instrument would do when playing these intervals. Well, I'm thinking about how deep do I want my vibrato in a specific moment? How fast and how deep? Now we can take this vibrato exercise a little bit further. First of all, we would do this on the range of the instrument. It's going to be difficult, of course, it's going to feel different on every note. Doing this shift down with the embouchure is going to feel a little bit different on every note. So that's something we need to think about and work on. What I can do is, if I still stay on this middle C, I can try and get to a whole tone down. Here it would be C, B flat. It's just an exercise for increasing flexibility in our embouchure and then applying that to how much vibrato we want in specific instances. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was useful. If you would like to find out more about lessons with me, please click the link in the description and I'll see you there.